Welcome to Mrs. J's Book Nook. Today I'm reading a beautiful story, The Old Fragipani Tree at Flying Fish Point, written by Trina Saffioti, illustrated by Maggie, Prewett. First published in 2008, Magabala Books, Aboriginal Corporation, Broome, Western Australia. Copyright text Trina Saffioti, illustrations Maggie, Prewett. Long ago, when my mother was a child, there was an enormous Frangipani tree that grew in the town of Flying Fish Point. It had been growing in my mum's backyard for as long as anyone could remember. People came from all around to pick the fragrant flowers that adorned its twisted old branches. Mum's family were poor, and it sometimes made life very hard. Like on the day of the Flying Fish Point School Fancy Dress Carnival, held every summer. If your family didn't have the money to hire a costume, you had to make one. Often there wasn't anything at home to make a costume with. There was one special year though, where Mum's sisters, Kathy and Dorothy, had an idea. "Faithy girl, you can go as an island princess. We'll make a lei from the old Frangipani tree." One of Aunt Trina's sheets became a sarong, and Uncle Bill lent Mum a ukulele with no strings. Mrs. Delabarca from next door came over with some makeup, a squashed red lipstick, and a stump of black eye pencil. "You'll be the most beautiful island princess ever," she said. Kathy and Dorothy picked the finest flowers from the Frangipani tree. They sharpened their needles and threaded the flowers, weaving them into a thick braid. When the lei was finished, Kathy held it up and they breathed in the sweet fragrance. The perfume was so strong that it filled the room, floated through the house, out the front door, and onto the street. That night, my grandmother plaited Mum's hair so that when she untied it the next day, it would fall in shiny black waves. "Will I win?" Mum said. "Who knows?" asked Granny. "But if anyone can win, it is a girl who wears the perfume of freshly picked frangipani. When I met your father, I had a flower from that old tree in my hair." The next day, Mum rushed home from school. Kathy and Dorothy untied her plaits and they brushed her hair until it rippled and shone. Granny carefully wrapped the sarong around her and Mum sat very still while her sisters put on her makeup. They placed the lei around her neck and a frangipani crown on her head. They put bangles around her wrists and the ukulele in her arms. "Now you are a real island princess," said Kathy. It was time to go to the carnival. "Go, Faithy girl!" shouted Cousin Florence from her front yard. And when they walked through the school gates, they saw excited children everywhere and suddenly, Mum was afraid. No longer did her sarong feel like the dress of an island princess. It was just an old sheet that no one wanted. Her bare feet had seemed just right at home, but now they felt all wrong when she saw the jewelled sandals another girl wore. Carmen, one of the more popular girls, was dressed as a beautiful ballerina. Mum just wanted to run away. "What's wrong, Faithy girl?" asked Cousin Noel, who was dressed as an Aboriginal warrior. "Nolly boy, look at me. I'll never win." "Oh, Faithy girl, you look like an island princess," he said. "Some boys laughed at me, but I don't care. If I win, I'll share my prize with you. If you win, you can share with me." Nolly Boy's encouragement made Mum feel a bit braver, and although she didn't think they had much of a chance of winning, she agreed. The judging finally began and the children paraded around the tennis court. Mum's family clapped and cheered when she walked past. "Your ukulele hasn't even got strings," teased one boy. Mum clutched the old instrument tighter. A kookaburra called out in a high shrill. Mum was sure it was crying, "No chance, Faithy girl, no chance." When it was her turn to stand in front of the judges, they all breathed in the perfume. "Ah, Frangipani," said one. My favourite flower," said another. The children danced and played while they waited for the winners to be announced. At last, one of the judges called for attention. "Third place goes to the Lone Ranger, Freddie Jacobson. Second place goes to the Candle, Rhonda Harris. And first place goes to..." Mum looked around. Carmen the ballerina was tidying her skirt and smoothing her hair. "Faith Ramsey, the Island Princess." All Mum heard was the roar from her family. "Faithy girl won! Faithy girl won!" they sang. In the years to follow, long after the prize money had been spent on sweets with Nolly Boy, people would talk about how Mum had won the fancy dress carnival at Flying Fish Point School. "It was the hair," said Kathy and Dorothy. "Faithy girl had the best hair." "Oh, it was the sarong," said Aunt Trina. "The judges loved that pretty sarong." "It was the makeup," said Mrs. Delabarca. "She had just enough on." "Well, no," said Granny. "It was the Frangipani. No one can resist a girl who wears frangipani flowers from that old tree out the back."